Second. Let me try to. Oh,
It looks like we're
hi
live.
everybody, and welcome to. Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 Podcast. I'm your host Stephen Nagishi. Thanks for joining us on this final show of 2025. We hope you had a wonderful Christmas, whether it's by yourself like us, or with the loved ones or the family, wherever you might be. We apologize for the opening there because we thought that there might be some technical difficulty on my end. When I clicked go live, and it didn't immediately pop up live, so maybe there was an internet issue. So we apologize for that. To my right on your screen is my co-host and associate editor of the sports blog Alpha Announcing. It is Ken Fang. Ken, happy holidays to you. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas.
It was quiet, Stephen. I spent it here. I spent it at home. I was hoping to see my family
Same here.
yesterday, but unfortunately, things happened, so I couldn't. But we're gonna try that another time. But anyway, was I spent it and fell asleep a little bit on my couch. Missed a lot of the Minnesota Detroit game, but saw the other two games. But we'll discuss that and. We'll discuss other things that have happened in NFL Week 17. A really light week. I'm really hating the fact that we have only two games in the late window, and they're pretty much over with. But anyway, we'll discuss all that coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we could kind of get into it because the schedule is very, 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 very light this year. Certainly with the games that we saw, the Chiefs, Broncos on Prime. The Chiefs are completely eliminated a couple of weeks ago, and no Patrick Mahomes to play for. You had Chris Olajuwon playing quarterback, who's a
Hmm.
third stringer, and the Chiefs are basically just trying to, you know, wait for the season to be done and over with. At this point, right? So
Yep.
basically, they're just trying to, you know, look forward to the off season at this point. Right now at 6-10, and team that's basically have nothing to play for. Certainly have a lot of question marks with the future of Travis Kelsey now in play. We still don't know if Andy Reid will be back. I assume he will be back,
He's coming
but
back. He's coming back.
it's hard to believe that there will be same coaching staff being brought back again at this juncture. But certainly the ratings took a massive dive for it. The let's see, the Cowboys Commanders, that completely lost its allure several weeks ago when Cowboys were knocked out of the playoffs and the Commanders season was already over, maybe by back in November. That's when Jaden Daniels was, getting hit and getting hurt a lot, like much like RG3 used to be. And then Detroit, Minnesota game. Here in Detroit, obviously, where I live and nearby, the Lions season just completely took a nosedive, losing to the Vikings, on Thursday. It's obviously a very, a difficult time for, the Lions fans to kind of accept, that, from a 15-2 to, an 8-8 record, currently at the very bottom of the NFC North because they lost to Minnesota twice. They were swept by the Vikings. They lost to a third stringer by the name of Max Brosmer, who didn't throw, over 50 yards, and they still ended up losing. So there are a lot of question marks with the Lions in this offseason.
Mhm.
Certainly, there are some people who are listening to the local radio here. They're kind of like having some remorse about, who, better coach long term, whether it's Dan Campbell or Ben Johnson or the Bears, which we will get to that in a moment. But as long as the Netflix has the rights to the games of this nature, Unfortunately, Detroit playing, already two Thursday night games, one on Thanksgiving and one on, Christmas Day. It's certainly, um, you know, obviously players' health, mental and physical be damned out of the window. It certainly didn't make any compelling TV, considering you have to subscribe to Netflix first and foremost for both games, of course. And do you look at it as just this year just happens to be one of those years where teams that were good a year ago was bad, or is this I don't know, a sign of maybe more things to come because
Oh,
all is becoming watered down.
it was an aberration this year. I mean, last year they had good teams, and Kansas City was in the midst of going for it, and Pittsburgh was also going for the playoffs. So last year's doubleheader was a good doubleheader. This year, I mean, you
I
had
believe was it the Texans and the Chiefs were in play, right?
yeah. So Pittsburgh was also involved in the doubleheader as well last year. So yeah, they had teams that were in the playoff hunt, Steven. So
Mhm,
I think Netflix lucked out that year, last year.
mhm.
This year was one of those things where injuries and it was just bad luck, and also a lot of the playoffs were coming into this week. Had some things worked out. We may not have had any drama for next week in week 18. Luckily, we do. We have a couple of winner take all games that we'll discuss that later. But the fact is that this year was just a year of bad luck. You know, Amazon was hoping Denver and Kansas City would be a good game. They thought, well, hey, we have Mahomes. Denver was a surprise. Of course, they're going to win the AFC West this year. So the fact is that Kansas City, they had everything that went well for them last year went south for them this year, and then you have Patrick Mahomes injured, and then Gardner Minshew also. So everything just went bad. Everything that things that could have gone wrong, they just had They just had just a bad amount of bad luck, and it all happened this year. Um, and so I just think that I don't think you're going to see that again next year. I think that you know it was just a whole slew of bad luck that hit Christmas. But you know what? I have a feeling because people like watching the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are always a draw, Steven. Um, and Detroit, Minnesota. Detroit has become a brand name over the last 3 seasons, and they, of course, that game they had to fight. They had to win to continue their playoff hunt. And of course, they didn't. But I have to say that I think we'll see the final viewing numbers on Netflix. I think they'll be pretty decent, and I still think they'll probably beat the NBA still, because that's the NFL. The NFL still does well, and they'll still beat the NBA when we find out the numbers next week, later this week.
Mhm. Okay, okay. Well, I'll definitely consider this year maybe as an aberration. Um,
Yeah,
obviously with the other games that took place yesterday, Texans beat the Chargers. It's hard, I don't know. It seems as though Texans and Chargers looks like they're going to be wild card teams, with possibility of getting eliminated on the wild card opening weekend once again. The Chargers, they've done decently even with the all the injuries to their offensive line. The Texans just doesn't. They're playing the Jaguars next week for the division title and AFC South on the line and everything. Um, certainly there the game itself just didn't seem to have the same level of cachet as, let's say, last Saturday's the Bears Packers on prime time. And then yesterday, again, you had to subscribe to Peacock to watch it. I don't know how many people were actually uh, even the Ravens or the Packers fans. I don't know if anybody would have subscribed to watching the Ravens and the Packers on Peacock. The Ravens completely blew out the Packers. So the NFC North title is now belonging to the Chicago Bears, kind of like by default, because Packers lost yesterday
Mhm.
in so many ways. Um, it's great that the Bears are finally in the playoffs, and of course, made the win the NFC North by kind of like a anticlimactic way, because Packers lost yesterday. There is still something to play for, and the Bears are playing the San Francisco 49ers later tonight on Sunday Night Football on NBC. They still have, the second seed at the moment. They still have a slight chance of clinching the outside as the number one overall seed right now. Certainly, they did not get any help today from Carolina, who looked absolutely dog shit against the Seattle Seahawks. I was hoping that the Lightning would strike twice. The Rams went to Carolina a couple of weeks ago. They look absolutely. They were upset by them. Seattle certainly look much better team, well prepared. Certainly going from a West Coast to East Coast with the time zone and early time game.
Mhm.
Certainly sometimes have an impact, but when you have Bryce Young as your quarterback, at Carolina, certainly I have kind of understood that maybe you cannot trust Carolina with Bryce Young there at the quarterback. But let's talk about your team, the Cleveland Browns. Give it up for the Cleveland Browns. They pulled a shocker today in Cleveland. They upset the Pittsburgh Steelers 13-6. The score itself certainly obviously doesn't really elicit any sort of an excitement, but the fact is the Browns won today at home. I believe it was the final game of the home game of the regular season.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of watched this game on Red Zone, and it was kind of like a really boring game, back and forth, where it seems as though Pittsburgh were hell bent on not giving up a sack by
Garrett.
Miles Garrett, which would have given him the NFL all-time sack lead by himself today. And it seems as though Steelers were more content and were hell bent on not giving Miles Garrett the record against them more so than winning. What do you think?
Well, I it was a really strange game. Shador Sanders didn't look very good. He threw two interceptions, which are really horrible. Uh,
But that touchdown he threw to Harold Fannin Jr.
yeah,
Just before halftime, I thought that was a very good throw there.
yeah, that was a good throw. Overall, I have to say that Shador. I mean, I don't know what I expect from him. I expect a little bit better from him, especially the two
Mhm.
interceptions that he threw. But overall, he managed the game okay. You win a win is a win, Steven. So I'm not gonna, take that
Right.
away from him. And this is the fourth straight season that the Browns have beat the Steelers at home. So that was a good thing. I was very pleased to see that even though the Steelers were trying to key on Miles Garrett, the Browns were focused on not allowing Aaron Rodgers to beat them. And even though
Mhm.
the last drive made me extremely nervous, um, and the drive before they did a great job in pinning the in a stand that stopped the Steelers. There was a fourth down. They went for it on fourth down deep in their own territory, and they made a stop, which led to a field goal, which put them up 13-6. They were up 10-6 at the time. But then that last drive made me extremely nervous. I thought for sure that because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, he was going to drive Pittsburgh for a tying score, but they stalled in the red zone, and the Steelers, this is what they do. It seems like, especially in the Mike Tomlin era, especially the last few years, they take a step forward, then they take two steps back. And I know that the fans were calling for his firing earlier this season, but it seems like they righted the ship. But then they came to Cleveland, and my Browns beat them, and I'm very happy with that. Now it's going to be a winner take all and I think this is my opinion. They'll probably schedule that game, the AFC North Central Division game between Baltimore and Pittsburgh, in Sunday Night Football. Mike
Right.
Tirico will likely call that game. I think that it's a winner take all. The NFL likes to put a winner take all game in the very last game of the season. We were very it was looking like for a moment that it was going to be Carolina and Tampa Bay, one of those two games, but I think NBC would prefer Baltimore and Pittsburgh in that game. So that's just my opinion. I don't think and I think that probably Carolina Tampa Bay will go to ESPN ABC on the Saturday doubleheader. It always has a doubleheader with playoff implications, so I think that game will go there. But
Mhm.
and then I think Fox will probably get Seattle, San Francisco in a battle probably for the number one seed. So we'll see what happens. But overall, I have to say,
Mhm.
um, I was very pleased by the defensive effort. Um, they did a
Sure.
great job in head, and of course, DK Metcalf was out because he had a 2-game suspension for hitting the fan last week in Detroit.
Right.
But
And by the way, thank you for bringing that up because I live in the Detroit area myself, and we'll talk about the guy, his
well,
embarrassing press conference and the fan behavior in a moment, and then,
that
and
guy's a
then there's no question Steelers certainly benefited from not having DK Metcalf, because they kind of like became very, very one-dimensional because outside of DK Metcalf, there wasn't anybody else who could have caught that
no,
pass. And because
and nobody
it seems
stepped
like
up.
again, Pittsburgh was just so concerned about not losing, not playing, not to lose, more so than not to
Yeah, I
win. I
agree
mean,
with that. When you have only 2 field goals, Stephen, and you're expected to do much better than that. And
yeah.
again, not having DK Metcalf was really hurt them. There are a couple of passes that Aaron Rodgers threw that normally he would have caught, but nobody stepped up. So I'll take that. And I think and the Browns are just saying, hey, look, Aaron Rodgers, we're not going to let you beat us. If you want to run the ball, go right ahead. They didn't have
Mhm.
any way to run the ball. So overall, a very great effort by the Cleveland defense. A couple of great interceptions as well as Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to have to say, and they they gave some looks that and it confused Aaron Rodgers. He looked confused out there. He never got comfortable, and while Myles Garrett wasn't able to get a sack, it was still the fact is they were able to get some good pressure on him anyway, and force some rush throws. Overall, good defensive effort. 13-6, as you mentioned, isn't going to be a sexy game, but a win is a win. And
Mhm.
it's really strange for the Browns and us to try to benefit Baltimore. But you know what? It's a division game. You try to do what you can, and I give credit to Cleveland for not quitting. They decided that they're going to play this out, and they decided to play spoiler, and a great job by them. So it's going to lead to like I said, winner take all next week in Week 18. And we'll see where that's scheduled. They'll probably announce the schedule later tonight on Sunday Night Football. We'll see what happens.
Mhm. Now, getting back to the Browns for a moment, does today and tomorrow and then next week's game, which I think is in Cincinnati against
Yeah.
the Bengals with no defense, um, does today and next week results as a Browns fan, does that kind of have any impact on whether they bring back Kevin Stefanski,
No,
Andrew
he's fine.
Berry, and Shedeur Sanders, or do you feel like that shouldn't have any sort of bearing, including today's results, shouldn't have any impact on what the Browns should do with the 3 people that I just mentioned?
No, I think Shadir's coming back. I think he deserves to come back. Again, like I said last week, Stephen, it doesn't matter if you decide to draft another quarterback next year. You still have to solve the problem with the getting getting some weapons. You need to, they
Right. And then also fix the offensive line too.
and the offensive line is just horrid. You can draft 85 Heisman Trophy winners quarterbacks. They're going to look terrible behind that offensive line. You could have Tom Brady back there. You could have
Right.
Dan. You could have John Elway. They would be killed back there, and they would not be
Mhm.
even. we've seen what happened in the number of the first round picks, whether it goes from Tim Couch to Johnny Manziel. It doesn't matter who's been back there; they've all looked horrible. But that's not on them. It's on the offensive line. It's always been on the offensive line. It's been on management. So um,
Mhm.
they've got to solve these problems. I don't care who you have back there. You can, like I said, you can have Sid Luckman. You can have anybody you want back there. They're not going to do horribly unless you can protect them. So you can't. I would love to see. I want Shador to come back. He deserves to. Deshaun Watson,
Mhm.
unfortunately, has this terrible contract. He's probably going to be the starter unless he gets hurt. But I'm going to have to tell you, Steven, Stefanski's, like I said, he's dead man walking. There's no doubt in my mind that we're not going to see him come back. Kevin Barry's probably going to come back. He probably wants to bring somebody in to be the coach. And I think Shador Sanders should come back. Dylan Gabriel should come back too. I mean, they all deserve to come back. Um,
Right.
but as far as what we're going to see for next season, it's going to be interesting because it's going to be another lame duck season the, in the Cleveland Brown Stadium as they decide to go out to out and try to build their new stadium, which will be a dome stadium. But overall, it'll unless they show me that they can draft, it's going to be the same thing next year as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I certainly, think that, as a Bears fan, um, the success of this year really lies on the fact that they finally fixed their offensive line. They
Right,
got Joe Tooney from Kansas City, Chris Dahlman from uh, the Atlanta Falcons, fixed the center, and they also got Jonah Jackson, who has a history with Ben Johnson up in Detroit. His only season with the Rams was a complete disaster because of the injury, but all three of them really solidified the offensive line. I'm a big believer in fixing the offensive line or having a great offensive line and then having a great defensive line. You have to win on the line of scrimmage. You could have like a 1,500-yard rusher or even a receiver, but it absolutely means nothing without a
right,
solid offensive line and then giving your quarterback the time to scan through the field, make progressions, and make decisions quickly. So I'm a big believer in that. With the Cleveland Browns, I know there have been some chatters about how they've handled Wyatt Teller, the guard, and then Joe Bitonio's future is a bit up in the air too, because I think he's a free agent after this year,
right,
and
right.
his age is going to be a big concern. Ethan Posich, the center, suffered a torn ACL, I believe. That's a huge injury for anybody to come back for a man of his size as well. You know, I don't think I think the decision on Stefanski has already been made. I don't think that when you're head coach for the 6 of those years and then 2 years, you went to the playoffs, and then the 4 other years, including this year, it's just nothing short of disappointment. And I know for you, Ken, disappointment would be somewhat of an understatement, just
Yeah.
how bad this organization has run. So, I think I think we kind of seen, what Kevin Stefanski is, um, on the job. I think there is a, full evaluation as well as the judgment. I think behind closed doors may have been done, and I get it, as a Bears fan, I've been through so many back coaches, you know, paired with a rookie quarterback only to be fired the next season and obviously screw up the development aspect of it. So, I do believe that the Stefanski decision, whether he's coming back or not, I think it's kind of already been made, don't you think?
Oh, it's been made. I don't think he's coming back. I think Kevin Barry is going to announce. I think it's going to be Black. We all know Black Monday is the day after the regular season. You know, the first Monday after the regular season, before in between the wild card playoffs, we'll hear that Kevin Stefanski get fired. If I'm sure it'll
Right.
probably it may happen. It may happen after the gun. It may happen to like the minute the final gun is fired off next week. So I wouldn't be surprised, Stephen. I don't think he's coming back. He shouldn't come back. He doesn't deserve to come back. And I think that it would be like your team bringing back Matt Eberflus after a very bad season. I don't think that's going to happen. So if he does come back, it would be a shock. I would be a total shock to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I
It's not a scapegoating for firing a coach like Stefanski, though.
No, it's just the fact that he's just showed that he's had to deal with a lot by upper management, and he's been handcuffed.
Mm-hmm.
But and there's not much he can do. I mean, I think it's time for a change of scenery for a new coach. Who is it going to be? I don't know. I wouldn't have any speculation on who they would bring in. But
Right.
Whether they want to bring in a college coach or whether they want to bring in the next hot coordinator, we'll have to wait and see. But to me, Stefanski doesn't deserve to come back. He's basically shown his limitation with this team. He can't bring it up any higher than he can at this point. So it's time for a new coach.
Mm-hmm. Looking at the other games today, the Jets Patriots, I should say, absolutely blasted the Jets. It was a 35-3 at halftime, pretty much. It looks as though, Aaron Glenn's future has been brought up once again as the Jets look absolutely putrid and look uncompetitive right now.
Woody Johnson did say he is coming back.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. This is the same Jets organization. Of course, this was well before Woody Johnson took over and bought the team from the Hess. They fired Rich Kotite. It was also one and done too, but it was also, coming off a 1-15 season, of course. So maybe record-wise they're not as bad, but certainly on paper and then on the field, it's certainly. Today's results doesn't really spark much of a confidence as well. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the Jags, they beat the Colts 23-17. They have 1 foot closer to the AFC South. Again, next week's game against the Houston Texans is for the divisional title, of course. Jags is already in the playoffs, right? Thankfully. The other games that are ongoing, the Eagles and the Bills. The Bills finally just scored a touchdown from the 2-yard line. They're just basically, I don't know if it's just the weather or I don't know if it's just basically that, they're just kind of laboring through right now. They're playing poorly. I think they still have one more game in their, the Rich Stadium. And, oh, my God, the extra point got just blocked. Oh, my God. Holy cow!
That's terrible.
Wow.
There's still one touchdown. It's 13-6. So it's a touchdown, and they could still
right. Instead of being down by just a touchdown, which they could easily score, by the way, if they want to. By the way, instead of a 13-7, it's now 13-6. So now all you can go for is a tie right now. Jalen Carter just basically went up and blocked it. Ay. My goodness.
I mean, this is just.
By the way, if the Bills lose tonight, if it's the New England Patriots
win the AFC East,
they will win the AFC East. So there is so much riding on this. And then the toilet bowl, as urinating tree, the YouTuber would like to say, the Giants pummel the Raiders. So now the Raiders have at this point.
Actually, no, the number one pick. They don't have it yet. A couple things have to happen first, but they are right now in line for the number 1 pick. They still have to lose next week's game as well. But if they do that, then they pretty much the Giants lost today. They would have had the number 1 pick. But for the Raiders, a couple things have to happen. But they're right now in line for the number 1 pick for the draft.
Absolutely. Right now, if this is the way things are, Raiders at this hour, I believe, has probably the top overall pick at this moment, which doesn't surprise me considering, Max Crosby is on IR already. I have a strong feeling that, Max Crosby, by the way, will probably, as long as he checks out healthy, he will be traded. He will be traded at the end of this upcoming off season, whoever it might be, whoever it is. I know my Bears have been linked to him because we need a dominant pass rusher. Because Montez Sweat alone isn't cutting it, and he sometimes
Right.
goes the entire game without a single sack or making any noise in the back, in the backfield himself. So we'll see. I do believe that this might be it for Max Crosby's
Well,
future. I know he this voiced displeasure, like I don't give a shit about the top pick when he was asked about it
yeah,
earlier.
it was. What's happened is that yesterday he did a TikTok video showing him playing in his home gymnasium, playing basketball with his kids and his dog.
Right,
So
like a James Harden jumper type of
yeah,
situation.
he said he wasn't hurt, and I think it's really horrible that the Raiders just decided to shut him down. Here's a guy who is his heart and soul. He loves the Raiders, but I think Crosby is gone. I think they're going to trade him most likely. They're going.
Well,
Or
they have to. I mean,
yeah,
it's like a luxury pick. It's kind of like your Browns having Miles Garrett, at 4-12 or whatever. It seems
right.
like the talent is being completely wasted, unfortunately.
Right, 100%. They got to let him go. They really do, and I think that trading him to the Bears would be a great thing for your team, and I think he would thrive over with Chicago, especially with your defense. I think he would be very helpful.
Yeah, especially considering how much Max Crosby enjoyed playing against and thinks highly of Caleb Williams when they faced each other earlier this year.
Right.
By the way, shout out to Derek for saying hi. I hope you had a wonderful holiday seasons, Derek. Thanks for checking in wherever you might be as well. So, all right, Ken, let's look into the big story. Again, we're still going to stick with the football for a moment. It is the decision by the Kansas City Chiefs to leave Kansas City, Missouri. They are leaving Missouri and then go over to, the Olathe, Wyandotte County, Kansas area, which is not too far away from, the Kansas City,
Missouri.
Missouri side.
Yeah.
I lived in Overland Park, Kansas side of Kansas, which
Mhm.
not too far away from the Missouri border because I drove back and forth on both KC and Missouri on both sides, which is not that far away from where I worked and where I live. So it's kind of like for those who are thinking, oh my God, they're moving in the middle of nowhere, like in Wichita or somewhere. It's kind of like it's like kind of like the Jets and the Giants. There are the New York Jets Giants, but they play in East Rutherford, New Jersey, which is, not too far away. If you've been to that area, you
It's
could
very close to the New York area.
right. You could literally see the New York from a New Jersey side. So it's kind of like that.
Mhm.
But what makes this many people upset about this is that certainly even when I was living, they had a boat which was kind of like tied into with the Kansas City Royals because they were trying to get a brand new stadium deal done in
Right.
downtown Kansas City or wherever it was. By the way, if you've never been to that side of the uh, Kansas City Chiefs and the Royals, they play in the same stadium, not same stadium, excuse me, but they're
The Harry,
literally next to each other.
it's the Harry S. Truman Sports Complex, a baseball stadium for the Royals, Kauffman Stadium, and Arrowhead Stadium, built side by side.
Right. So I'm going to try and show you the renderings of the first of all the stadium here. As you can see, this is a
Go full
probably one
screen.
of the
If you go full screen on that, if you can.
okay.
Yeah.
Here
So
it is. So it's a cookie cutter stuff,
yeah,
unfortunately.
it would be. It would. I think that it would it be a retractable roof, or did they say it was going to be a fixed dome?
I think it's a fixed dome. I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure, but it does seem like the renderings of pretty much what the Las Vegas Raiders stadium it looks like.
Right. Well, this
Like
is what I have.
it's like a copy and paste type of stadium, unfortunately.
Right. Well, I'm going to say this. First of all, uh, this is a Chiefs ploy to, to try and extort money out of either side, out of Kansas or Missouri, to get the best deal. This is a stadium that would be 70% publicly funded. Publicly funded. That is just way too much. Um, and it would be done through taxes and all types of smoke and mirrors to try and get this. And can't all the money goes to the Chiefs, Stephen. Even though that the state of Kansas would own the stadium, and it's going to be a mixed use facility as well. All of the revenue is going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs. So even though they're paying rent to the state of Kansas, any money that made from concerts, any money that's made from revenue that any type of events that are played in that stadium would go to the Kansas City Chiefs. Whereas again, that is just really way too much in my opinion. Um, you know, I know that they're thinking, hey, here's a great chance for us to get Super Bowls. Here's a great chance to get the Final Four. Here's a great chance if Taylor Swift wants to play in a concert, we'll have her play there. Um, and of course they'll say, "Oh, it's going to be great because we'll have construction, and we'll get jobs." Really, to be honest with you, stadiums don't generate that much jobs to begin with. It's all mostly part-time jobs because of the ushers and everything like that down the line. So, it's not going to
Right.
create a lot of jobs. So, and the fact is, like I said, it's the Chiefs trying to extort which state is going to give them the better deal. Right now, Kansas, and this is what similar to what the Patriots did with Rhode Island and Connecticut and Massachusetts before they finally built Gillette Stadium. They played they tried to play legislators off each other. Massachusetts wouldn't give them the publicly funded money. Rhode Island almost tried to give them land in Providence. Connecticut then eventually said, "We'll sign a deal with you. We'll do it." And then eventually, Robert Kraft decided to go back to Gillette Stadium, and where he actually paid most of the money to fund the stadium, which was a good move. Okay,
Yeah.
and he got money for infrastructure, which is the way it should be. But Stephen, the way that the Kansas City Chiefs did this, it's extortion. It's trying to get money from the state, and again, it's a sweetheart deal. They got all the revenue is going to go to them instead of the state of Kansas. How is that going to work? So, the stadium is probably going to make money, but all the money is going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs. So, totally unfair. Here's a situation where they could use the money on libraries, education, um, housing, but instead they're going to build this huge monstrosity in Kansas, and that would mean also another NFL team would leave Missouri. Of course, the St. Louis Rams left to go to Los Angeles, and I know the Kansas City Chiefs would still be in the metro area, but it's just ridiculous about how these NFL teams or these owners think they can get away with stuff like this, and it's all under the guise of, oh, if you don't do this, we'll leave. And now the Chiefs are saying, oh, we're going to leave Kansas City. I think I think down the line we'll see a deal that'll probably force the Missouri legislature to come through, and they'll get their stadium in Kansas City, which is what they wanted all along. But I think this is just truly a deal to extort money, to get money, to get the better deal, to try and play two states off of each other until they get the deal they want.
Yeah, it's very, very sad. It seems like, um, as we saw the renderings of the stadiums there, um, the Vegas Raiders, the Chiefs, Washington Commanders, and the Bears, my team, they all have kind of like released the renderings of their own stadium, and this looks exactly just like that. That's why I use the term copy paste,
Right.
like a Control plus P on your computer keyboard, which I think a lot of people use on their regular basis, at work or at home. It's basically there's no significant differences. It's probably the same company that's usually designing these stadiums, So the lack of the creativity and the amenity is simply shocking. First and foremost, I saw somewhere earlier today or earlier this week that the billionaires have no taste when it comes to arts and stuff like that. Let me tell you, I believe it. The billionaires extort money like Clark Hunt, who is wealthy enough to build these damn stadiums, but yet somehow they feel the need to, you know, con the cities, the counties, the cities into, getting, money from the taxpayers to build the stadium that lacks characters.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then, and then on top of that, it doesn't really pay for itself.
Right. Right. I mean, the Patriots are one of the first to do a mixed use facility. They're in the middle of nowhere. They're in Foxborough, which it's run road to get in, Route One to get in, a one road to get out. It's very difficult to get out of there. So they built a mixed use facility, which includes, which a lot of stores, by the way, Stephen, have closed. By the way, when you go to Patriot Place, a lot of places have closed. They have a hotel there. They have Trader Joe's. I haven't been there in a while, so they tried to get people to go there, and of course, when you build it there, first there's a lot of interest and a lot of curiosity, so you go there, and then you realize it's just like another mall that you've been to. So why would I go there? So a lot of places. The last time I went there, there was a Five Guys which I went to eat, and all the stores were closed. It was a Sunday, so so it was easy to get in and get out, and of course there was no game there either, so I was able to get in and out of there. But really, to be honest with you, it's like, you try to do these mixed use facilities, you try to get all these shops, you try to get hotels, you try to do apartments there to get people to go, but at the end, does it really work? Who knows? The Atlanta Braves are the one that have been very successful with theirs, of course, with their
Mhm.
stadium. But I think they did a lot of good planning around it. But you have to, but they're one of the teams that are like an aberration. Other teams say, okay, let's do the same thing that they did. But again, you need a planning. You need to have a place where you can go and make it accessible. And if you do this, like I said, it was a private public partnership with the Braves, so it worked for them, and they did it in this town called Cumberland, Georgia. So that's where
Right.
their Jewish Park is located, and it's done quite well. But again, not every team is going to be successful with it, and you've got to find a way to do it right. And I don't know if the Chiefs are going to do this right, and that's what my fear is, that they're in the middle of nowhere, kind of like what Gillette Stadium is. You need to find an
Mhm.
attraction to go there. So, like, is it good? What else are you going to have there? Are you going to have an attract? Are you going to have Are you going to have an amusement park there? Are you going to like have? What are you going to do when you're done? When you
Probably
don't?
condos and apartments near in
Yeah,
this nearby.
exactly. Exactly. So, but is it going to be enough to attract people to live there? Are those people going to go to say, "Oh, well, I live here. Let's go to a game." They're going to probably be priced out of going to the game.
Right.
Man, I can see it from the windows of my apartment. That's not probably going to work. So we'll have to see. I think this. I don't think they're going to move there. I think this is just a ploy to get the Missouri legislature to give them what they want, to eventually build a stadium in Kansas City, in downtown. That's what they want to do. And I know Clark Kent says, "Oh, I wish I could do this," and I would try to get a deal. And there's still there's still about 5 years before this happens, because the lease runs out at Arrowhead in 2030, and this building is supposed to be built by that time and be ready. So there's still a lot of time for this. But again, I don't. I really don't think this building is going to come to fruition. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe this is exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs want. But I think that down the line they'll be going back to Kansas City in a stadium that'll probably be, again, 70% publicly funded, and taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill, which is unfortunate, Stephen.
Absolutely. And I say this as a Bears fan because the
Yeah,
stadium situation with my team
right.
is as uh, uncertain as it is. Kevin Warren, as good of a job he has done as a team president, helping to lure and convince Ben Johnson to take the job and forcing the ownership to open up a big, paycheck to get Ben Johnson has failed miserably when it comes to the in the stadium front. He said that there was going to be a shovel already in by the end of the season, and now it ain't happening. And they're talking about going to Indiana, like
Yeah.
Gary, Indiana, which unfortunately is not exactly,
And that area is poor.
yeah, unfortunately, yes, it's a crime-ridden, poor area. I think back in the mid '90s, I heard something similar to that as well. Back then, of course, I've heard of that.
Yeah,
Now
that was
they recently went to Hammond, Indiana, to kind of do the survey on one of the lands, which I believe is factory or oil land,
Buffalo just scored.
refinery. Yeah,
Buffalo
like a
just scored.
refinery. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. Of course, again, this is a ploy. Northwest Indiana is just as close to being Chicago as it is to Arlington Heights, where they own the horse racing track that used to be there. That they're trying to build a stadium and everything, and the hotels, condo, shopping center, shopping malls, whatever the hell they want to do with that, with the rest of the land that they own outside of the stadium and the parking lot. So, I'm very curious. This Chiefs stadium issue certainly impacts my Bears team too, not because of the proximity, but because of the how the politicians will handle it with the ownership moving forward. Now, the McCaskies who own the Bears unfortunately aren't as rich as the Hunts or any other owner. They're probably in the bottom 3 or 4 when it comes to being in terms of the wealth from an owner's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they're trying not to use the public funding to build the stadium, but I think they want to work with the state to kind of maybe work around the building of the parking and concessions and stuff like that, which obviously they want to get some sort of a support from the state or the city itself. It's a complicated issue. I don't know if this is going to force the Bears to do the same thing. I think the Bears were kind of in the same timeline as the Chiefs were with the Chiefs announcing that they're leaving Kansas City, Missouri, as was the Bears trying to, play, have some sort of interest in the Northwest Indiana area, the Indiana Bears, which doesn't seem all that interesting or, sounds hideous. Nothing against, of course, the state of Indiana, of course, but it just doesn't, considering the, the Bear Down Chicago Bears song, it does have the verse that says, "You're the pride and joy of Illinois." So now what are you going to do? You're going to replace that Illinois with Indiana? It doesn't seem, it doesn't sit right with some people, myself included. So yeah, I'm very, very curious how this works out. I'm sure this is going to be something that I think the public needs to have a better opinions or needs to have a hearing on this matter. I'm sure this was not something that the city, Wyandotte County, and then also Olathe in that vicinity on the Kansas side is like, wait a minute, I've never heard about this. Why is this all of a sudden happening? Everything nowadays, it seems as though, with the billionaires, politicians in cahoots, they're all being done behind closed doors. So at least I hope that the public gets to hear about it and have a say on these matters. Which, unfortunately, in today's fragile, a political world and democracy, that becomes more and more. It feels like an outlier. Okay, we're looking at the 4th and goal. Bills.
Yep, touchdown was reversed because they were down at the 6-inch line.
Right.
Made and they originally called the touchdown. But then as they reviewed it, they realized they were down at the 6-inch line. So it's now 4th and goal with 6 seconds left to go. So
they just scored a touchdown.
Touchdown. Okay. You're ahead
Josh
of me.
Allen powers in from a 6-inch line, crosses the goal line. Man, that extra point miss on that very first touchdown. Oh man,
Oh,
that's going
March.
to come back to haunt them so much. I don't know if they're going to go for two here, but
Yeah, it's a good
oh,
point.
oh wow, they're going to go for it.
Well, that's going to be interesting. So if they're going to win or lose here, so if Buffalo gets this, they will delay the Patriots from winning the AFC East for until next week. If they lose here, if they don't get in, they will the Patriots will win the AFC East. So it's all up to the Buffalo defense here right now.
And they take a timeout.
Of course. This is an untimed down. I think the time has run out basically, or 5 seconds left. 5 seconds left. So we'll see what happens here, Stephen. Interesting to see what's going to happen. Your feed is a little bit ahead of mine right now. So
right, I'm watching it from the local television, local Fox.
Yeah, I'm up on YouTube TV.
You're looking at it from Fox 25 as well?
No, I'm watching it on my local Fox affiliate in Providence.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Fox 25 is Boston.
Yep. So they call the second timeout.
Okay, so no more timeouts left for Buffalo now. Here we go.
Yep. And actually, Philadelphia called this timeout, by the way. So we'll see what happens here.
Okay.
So, anyway, but your Bears.
No! I'm so sorry. Oh, he was open. My God. And then he threw an incompletion.
All right. So congratulations, unfortunately, to the New England Patriots. They are the AFC East champions. Now they will go for the Patriots actually have an outside shot to win the number 1 seed. Denver is in the Denver is easily in the driver's seat right now. So and Jacksonville also has an opportunity to win this. He was wide open. I don't know what the hell. I don't know what Josh Allen was doing there. So
yeah, he was open. Khalil Shakir just basically broke to the left, and then he just completely threw a bad pass.
Yeah. So anyway, so the AFC East is going to like the kind of like last night when the Bears won in a backdoor way. Same thing happened to the Patriots. Patriots are going to I don't really know what Josh Allen was doing there. That was a really strange pass. The guy was open. He just threw to a spot, and Josh Allen's going to have to rue that one. So Philadelphia, after having a little bit of a slump, now has won 3 straight, and they're going to take the NFC East. They have no shot in getting a bye right now. It's going to be between San Francisco, Chicago, and Seattle, I believe, for the number 1 slot. For the number 1 seed, Steven. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But as far as the Patriots are concerned, they look like they're going to be the number 2 seed. And we'll host potentially host Buffalo in New England in wild card weekend. So that'll be kind of interesting to watch that happen, Steven. So that'll be quite interesting. So right now, as it looks right now, as we now know the seeding for the AFC, Buffalo has pretty much, and they tried to do an offside kick. It was horrible. So again, Buffalo's going to lose this game. They've lost the game. So Philadelphia, see what winning does, Steven. After a lot of doubt in Philadelphia, after they had their midseason slump, I think they won 3 straight. So, and I think they have to play the New York Giants next week. So I think that they can rest some players and get ready for their game in the wild card weekend, probably as a number 3 seed. Good on them. And then, of course, next week we have, of course, the NFC South championship game between Carolina and Tampa Bay, and the AFC North championship game, which will be between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. And, of course, AFC South is going to be decided next week. And the main seeding for the number 1 seed, Seattle and San Francisco, that'll probably be played on Sunday night. I mean, not Sunday night, but the late afternoon on Sunday. That's if that's if I were scheduling the NFL. Obviously, I'm not. But we'll have to wait and see on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Eagles' best shot is at number 2 seed right now. So if they want, they have to win next week and then hope that the Bears lose tonight and also against the Lions next week, which probably won't happen because obviously the Lions have nothing to play for pretty much at this point. So
Right.
right. Wow. Okay, so let's finish off our show for this year with a bizarre story that is happening in my neck of the woods. Of course, that is the crazy Lions fan versus the Steelers receiver DK Metcalf. It all happened last week at this time because Metcalf punched a Lions fan. Apparently, these two have had some beef dating back to last year as well when Metcalf was still with the Seahawks. And yet, this guy, for whatever reason, the guy who got punched is having a weird beef with DK Metcalf for whatever reasons. That's dating back to last year. Now, NFL did say that they did conduct an investigation into this matter. And then, DK getting, punching a fan, and he obviously lost his cool. Now, of course, I do not condone a player attacking a fan by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, the suspension, it's somewhat warranted. But to me, it feels like, though, it's kind of a little bit one-sided because if you watch this guy, I'm going to share a screen of this guy, having an embarrassing press conference this past week, or at least yesterday, talking about it. Here, I'm going to play this one. See, you can be a judge for yourself.
It is really hard to get me upset, but there's two things: animal abuse, racism. Like, I get hot right away. Like, I can feel it in my face. It's all warm. So I guess I want to be crystal clear about one thing. I didn't use any racial slurs, no hate speech. I mean, none of that stuff at the game. Actually, never. 15 years season ticket holder for the Lions. I've never done that at all. So to Kalen, if you're watching this, man, if you could just say that, please. Like, my family's getting threats and stuff, and it's not cool. So whether you said that or not, I'm sure you didn't want that to happen to the family. Even if you did, like, I forgive you, man. That's all I got. Go.
First of all, this guy's full of shit. I'm sorry. I know people mock. First of all, look at this guy wearing his hat, backwards. Okay, that's the first thing that people mock him for. There's that, of course. And second of all, first of all, this guy. Why did he go to Seattle and start harassing DK Metcalf when he's a Lions season ticket holder for 15 years?
Right. Well,
that doesn't really make much sense at all.
Let me just say this: the Bears and looks like the Eagles and the Bills had a little bit of a post-game scuffle over at.
Yeah, I did see that a little bit. Yeah,
Park Stadium. So I thought it was first the Bears and the San Francisco 49ers at first, but then I realized it was the Eagles. Anyway, let's continuing that. Go ahead.
No, I don't know. I don't get the I don't get the guy motive going to Seattle of all places just to pick on Metcalf. And the fact that he's getting death threats and all of that, of course, I don't condone that, and I don't wish on anybody. But you open a can of worms for doing so, and then it's hard for me to find any sort of a thank you sympathy for this guy. Ridiculous. And
yeah,
it feels really like one of those guys who show up on a, like in a wheelchair, with the all like neck braces, like eye patches and all that kind of stuff, like
Mhm.
looking for like a cheap, cheap money,
Right.
like a cheap bucks, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
It feels embarrassing for a man of this ilk to, like, have a, like pretending that he's a victim here more so than anything else.
Yeah. Jay Glazer reported on Fox NFL Sunday earlier today that the Seattle Seahawks knew about this guy. They knew about this incident that DK Metcalf had complained about him, and they looked into it. Um, the Steelers did not know about this, so this is something that they didn't know about. But the Seahawks were aware of this fan. They investigated it, um, and the fact is that the NFL knew about it as well. But what's interesting is that when Pittsburgh signed him, they were not. They didn't. Seattle did not tell them about this. But still, you don't expect something like this to happen. And then this guy just seems to be obsessed with DK Metcalf for some reason. Again, don't condone him hitting a fan, but for him now, apparently, according to Jay Glazer, this guy, and it was seen on video, especially the last year's incident when he harassed DK Metcalf, that he went back to his seats and said, "Look what I did! Look what I did! I managed to rile him up." And again, apparently, there's video of him doing the same thing in Detroit last week. That's first of all, why are you so obsessed with this man? Okay, and I don't know if you said something racial, a racist thing to him, or tried to use his name. So it's alleged that
I'm,
he's
I'm, fair or not, I'm probably leaning more towards that because
yeah,
being called the Kalen
yeah,
isn't going to set off anything, to be
right.
honest.
But there's something there. There's when and as one of my friends who said to me when a guy says, "Oh, there's no story," he goes, "There's got to be a story there. If you tell me that there's no story, I'm gonna follow and think that there's a story there because when there's smoke, there's fire." So I'm gonna say, Stephen, that and then we'll probably have to leave it here at that. This guy, um, again, was a bizarre press conference. I felt bad for DK Metcalf. Again, you don't hit a fan in a situation like that, but this guy, he's a strange guy, and I have a
Well,
feeling.
look at the photo there. Look at the photo there.
Yeah, oh yeah, I have a feeling we're not going to. I think the Lions will probably take his season tickets away. I think I believe he's a season ticket holder from what I understand.
Right. He said he is a season ticket holder for 15 years or something.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see his tickets be taken away. I mean, your season tickets are not a right; they're a privilege. Okay, and the teams have the right to take it away if you're going to do this type of behavior, and it's
Exactly.
not it's not right to try and pick a fight with a player. And you know what? I'm the more I read, I'm not going to say it was justified. But I am going to say the more that I read about this, the less sympathy I have for this fan. I have none of whatsoever. And
Nope.
DK Metcalf, I know that you got, and I give the Pittsburgh Steelers total credit because they did not negate his bonuses. I think they knew what was going on. He had to.
Yeah.
They said they had the potential to lose $45 million. I don't believe that's a stupid figure, some stupid reporting, but they're not going to negate his bonuses. They're not going to negate anything on him. I think they realized what the situation was. And so good on the Steelers for at least honoring the last two games of his contract, even though he has been suspended. So I think that the Steelers understand the situation. I think
Right.
I think DK Metcalf told them privately he has regretted his behavior, but I also think they understand what happened here. And I think this fan is going to be on notice, and I don't think he's going to be coming back to Ford Field anytime soon.
No, I think he just opened himself a lot of open up himself for some sort of an investigation to his personal life and what he does on and off the field as well. So good luck. This is what you wanted. This is what you're going to get. Whether it's fair or not. So hopefully this guy, and DK will eventually, have their day in court, one way or another. And we'll see what happens. I live here, so I'm going to hear more about this guy and his backstory moving forward. So whether I like it or not, it really doesn't matter, because he's the one who decided to pick a fight with DK, and then DK retaliated. So this fight is just the beginning. We'll see how if there is any end game and how it's going to end. Well, speaking of the end, Ken, thank you very much once again for a great year. 2025, obviously, this is the last show of this year. We hope to be back again a week from tonight. Of course, final week 18 of the NFL season will be determined. We'll find the seedings all taken care of by then. Ken, I couldn't do this without you this year, so I appreciate you, sticking and then being patient with me all these years. And I also want to thank the people who have been watching our show pretty much, whether it's on the X or on our YouTube channel, which is Ken's channel, to watch us almost every week, us rambling about sports and everything. So thank you very much. And Ken, I'm going to give the final words for you as well, for anything you want to say to close out this year.
Well, Stephen, thank you very much for giving me this platform. We do it every week. I'm very happy to have this platform, and also everyone who's found our channel. So thank you so much. We didn't have as many people as we did last week. We have 87 people watching, but we'll take that. Well, anybody who watches us do this thing for that, us talk about the NFL or our thoughts on U.S. soccer, which are quite outspoken. We both have our opinions on U.S. soccer.
Absolutely.
Yes. But we talk about a lot of things here on this channel, and we the whole point of this channel was to talk about bad behavior against the Asian community. That is our mission statement. We will continue to do that when we see bad behavior, and especially like this behavior by this fan, we'll call it out. So we're not afraid to do that. We'll also have talk about, and Stephen has done shows with guests. I've also had my guests here as well. So we thank you very much for watching. We thank you very much. We appreciate it. Next week, we'll probably have a discussion. This week on my Substack, I'm going to have my biggest sports media stories of the year, and also my sports media predictions. We'll probably go over that next week. But in the meantime, we want to wish you, thank you for watching us. Thank you. We hope you have a great new year. Be safe out there. We want you to come back. I always tell people at my job when someone loses a car or something like that, I said, look, we can replace a car. We can't replace humans. So make sure you're safe. Make sure you come back to us. Make sure you'll be here. We love to hear from you. We love to hear that you're subscribing. So thank you so much. And thank you very much for watching in 2025. And we'll be back in 2026. And we'll see you all next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And by the way, I'll have a show with my good friend from, Jacob Infante from the Windy City Gridiron to talk about the Bears, this tonight's game, as well as the off season as well. So we'll do that tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 Central. So we look forward to having you on. In the meantime, for Ken Fang, myself, have a wonderful holiday season, and then enjoy have a safe and pleasant New Year's Eve. And then we will see you on January 4th. Have a great night. Take care, everybody. And thanks for watching us this past year.
Happy New Year.